In this video, I'm going to be talking about the track Kiwi Maddog 2020 by Elliott Smith. And this is actually the very first Elliott Smith track I've looked at on my channel. And that's despite being a huge fan of his music. And I think the reason probably is I'm a little bit nervous of turning his beautiful music into some crappy YouTube tutorial video. But here we go. Let me begin by playing through the track then. And I'm going to play what I think is the main guitar part live. And on my backing track, I've overdubbed the other supporting electric guitar part and a couple of acoustic parts. I'll talk about all that stuff in just a moment, but for now, let me play through the track. So this track came out in 1994 and appears on Elliott Smith's debut solo record Roman Candle. And it's named after an alcoholic beverage, a kind of cheap fortified wine. And I've never sampled it, but as far as I can ascertain, it's kind of the US equivalent of something like Buckfast, that Scottish fortified wine, which I have sampled. So Roman Candle's a beautiful record, and I don't think the songs he recorded for that record were ever really intended to be released. They were just some lo-fi 4-track home recordings, and that's part of the charm of the record. It's a really intimate record, and this track is a spooky, surfy instrumental, and it's not particularly representative of Elliott Smith if you don't already know his music, but it has got his trademark interesting chords and harmony, and it has got this great layering of guitars. I think part of Elliott Smith's genius is his production, and in particular his ability to layer up instruments in interesting ways, and that's something I want to talk about in this video. I want to begin by talking about the acoustic strummed part. I think it's a good idea to understand the basic chords and harmony before we get into the other stuff, and then you'll be able to see how the main parts relate to the chords in the acoustic part. Just a quick word on the tuning of this song. I'm playing it in standard tuning at concert pitch. The original recording isn't quite at concert pitch, it's slightly sharp for whatever reason. I mean, it was recorded on a 4-track, so maybe he'd nudge the pitch control on a 4-track. I remember how that was quite easy to do when I was recording on a 4-track cassette machine, or maybe he was just tuning up by ear and didn't get it quite to concert pitch. And when I was figuring out the track, I got it into a piece of software called Transcribe, and I found I had to reduce the pitch of the recording by about 45 cents. So not something you particularly need to worry about. I just play it in standard tuning. It's only a problem if you want to play along with the original recording, in which case you'd have to just change the pitch of that recording or just retune your guitar slightly. Now we're going to start with a D chord, and as far as the key of this song goes, I think it's a little bit of a slippery one, and for me it's roughly in the kind of G major, E minor kind of arena, but there are lots of interesting chords, some non-diatonic stuff. It kind of flits between major and minor. We got a secondary dominant. We've got chords that you could say were borrowed from related scales or modes. So it's typical Elliott Smith, and I think you just find that with great songwriters. Their ears are instinctively drawn to these kind of sounds. I don't think he was thinking theoretically when he was writing a song like this. I don't know what he was thinking when he was writing a song like this, but rarely I think do songwriters think in those kind of theoretical terms. It's just a natural sound that their ears are drawn to. So as I said, we're starting with a D chord, and the whole thing has got a nice relaxed kind of swingy feel, so just keep your strumming hand moving up and down. Then we're going to C, and then B minor, and I'm playing a B minor like this, so a 5th string root bar chord, and I'm not actually barring, I'm leaving the top string open. It's a little bit hard to hear at some points exactly what voicings he's using on this recording, but that's what I'm going for at this point. So C, B minor, and then G, to D, and then it's an F going to a C. So I'm just playing the F like this, and I think I can hear just a little lift off with the second finger before we go to C, and then we go round again. There's just a little percussive click, and I think there's just a little passing B note that takes us back round to the D. Then we're going round again, so it's D, C, B minor, and the second time round it changes. We're going to a B flat, which I'm playing as a bar chord up at the 6th fret, and then a D minor bar chord, this is 5th string root at the 5th fret, and then an E major, so B flat, D minor, E major. So that's the acoustic part for the first section of the song, whatever you want to call that. I could call it the verse of the song, but there are no words in it, so call it the A section if you like. Let me put all of that together. So it's 3, 4. Into the next bit of the tune, the chorus, the B section, whatever you want to call it. And this is quite straightforward. We've got an A7 chord, just playing this as an open A7 chord, to C, and then E minor, and that just repeats. again, just that relaxed, swingy strum, and that goes round I think 4 times. And this section of the song it's clearly in the key of E minor, but you've got that nice A7 in there as well. So I don't know where that comes from. Maybe that's a kind of what would that be? Kind of an E Dorian sound, I suppose. And there's one other section which is a bridge section, and that starts with a C chord. It sounds to me like on the bridge he's playing the C as a bar chord higher up the neck, so up at the 8th fret. Moving that down 1 fret to a B, and then we've got an E minor, F, and a C. So the whole bridge is something like this. Let's check out the main electric part. This is the part you can hear in the left-hand speaker, and it starts like this. So starting in the same way with a D chord. You can play an open D chord. I'm not actually hearing all of the notes in that chord. I'm really just hearing an A and a D, so you might just want to emphasize those 2 notes and give it a little bit of a wiggle with your whammy bar if you've got one. And then if you remember, the basic chords go to a C and then a B minor, and we're just arpeggiating those chord shapes really. So the C chord, we're just playing this. So you can just hold down the whole C chord or just the top part of it if you want to. And then over the B minor chord we've got this. So sliding up on the G strings, so open G, and sliding from 2 to 4. And then we've got this D note, and then the open top string. So again, outlining this kind of B minor sound, you've got the root and flat third of a B minor chord, and then got the open high E string as well. And then we're sliding higher up the neck, and we've got this lovely series of double stops played on the top 2 strings. So all of these are mainly minor and major thirds. So if you don't know about thirds, I have done a detailed video where I go into the theory and how it lays out on the guitar, so you might want to check that out if you're unfamiliar with these kind of shapes. But let me just give you the fret numbers here. We've got on the B and high E strings, it's 12 and 10. Moving that same shape down, so 10 and 8. And then 8 and 7. So kind of thirds in G major really. So then we're coming down to here. This is 7 and 5. And then we've got the 8th fret on the B and 8 on the high E. And then we're coming down to here. So we've got a little melody on the high E string. And the note on the B string is now staying the same, so it's just holding down this F note. So it's important to finger it like this, I think. So you've got fingers 3 and 4 here. And then resolving to this shape here, which is 5 and 3. So beautiful part this, and all of these shapes just outlining the chords very, very clearly. So hitting the important chord tones. So this is played over a G, and then over the D there, and then it's played over the F, and that then resolves to the C. Then we're going round again. It starts the same, but then it changes, and we've got some triad arpeggios here. So it's a B flat triad, to a D minor triad. Once again, if you're not familiar with triads, I've done a couple of videos where I talk about the theory behind triads. So this is it's the first inversion B flat triad to a root position D minor. You could think of triads as just the top part of more familiar chord shapes if you want to. So it's the top part of a B flat bar chord and then the top part of a D minor bar chord. And then we've got this, which is not really a triad, it's 3 notes, but this is really implying an E7 sound. It's like the top part of an E7 chord. So frets 7, 9 and 7. And that's then taking us into the next section of the tune. So all of that put together. Then we're into the next section of the tune, the B section, the chorus, whatever you want to call it. And this is a bit more straightforward, and we're just arpeggiating the basic chords here. So if you remember, the chords for this section were A7, C and E minor, and the basic part seems to be this. So the precise picking pattern seems to vary a little bit throughout the tune, but the basic idea is this. So I'll just shout out string numbers here. So on the A7 chord we've got 5, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then on the C we've got 4, 2, 3, 1, 2. E minor chord, just giving that big strum and then a little dip with the bar. You could strum upwards if you wanted to, that sounds good. So I think we repeat that sequence of chords 4 times. Sometimes we've just got a little passing note to connect us back to the E minor chord, so just a B note there. So throw that in if you want to. And that's the same for most of the B sections in the tune. I think just right towards the end of the tune it gets a little bit more strummy. You know. And then for the bridge section, this starts out like the acoustic part, so just bar chords, C, B, and then we've got a bar chord E minor, just picking out some notes from that chord. And then over the F chord we've got a little lick, so this is kind of a Hendrixy type lick, I suppose. We've just got a bar the 10th fret with the first finger over the ADG strings and then hammering down with the 3rd finger at the 12th fret on the A string and then releasing it. So that fits the F chord. You could think of that as coming out of the F major pentatonic, or this kind of F bar chord shape. Let's talk about the second guitar part, and you can hear this in the right hand speaker, and tonally this is quite a bit darker than the main guitar part, and it's got a bit more reverb on it as well. And the great thing is how the 2 guitar parts fit together and perfectly complement one another. It's not a straight double track, but what Elliott Smith is doing is obviously outlining the same chords, but he's using different chord voicings or different inversions, or if he is using the same chord voicing, he's playing on a different string set a little bit lower down. So it's really clever how he's doing that and just gets the 2 guitar parts to fit together perfectly. We start with this. So once again starting with the D chord, but instead of playing down here, we're playing this idea here. So we've got a bar at the 7th fret on the A, D, G, and hammering down the 3rd finger. Once again, it's coming out of this kind of chord shape. So hammering into the F sharp, which is the 3rd of D. And then for the C chord, so just arpeggiating a C chord, but on the lower string set here. And then for B minor, I'm hearing this. So it's like a B power chord, and then you've got the open G string in there as well. And then we're going to G. So this is outlining the G to D chord change, and then we've just got a little bass line kind of walk up to the D, so going on the A string. So open A, 2, 3, and then we hit the root note of the D chord, and we're playing this little shape here. So it's the root, the 3rd, and then open G string. For the F chord, just arpeggiating the lower notes in that F chord shape, and then to C, so the root and the 3rd of C. Then we're going round again. It's changing slightly there, so we've got the C, and then to the B minor, and we've got kind of a B, D, and G. So it's kind of a G over B sound there. I wonder if the acoustic is doing that as well. I'm not absolutely sure, but it doesn't particularly matter. I think G and B minor are very closely related chords, but certainly in this guitar part, he's going from C, so kind of G over B, and then we've got B flat chord, playing it down here, and then we've got a little lick, and this is really the same lick that we had in the main guitar part in the end of the bridge, but here we're playing it down at this end of the neck at the 3rd fret, and again it's outlining that B flat sound. And then just heading into the next section, we've got, I'm really just hearing bass notes here, so root notes of the D minor and the E. Let me put all of that together. And the B section, once again we're arpeggiating the A7 to C chords and giving the E minor chord a big strum, but here the part is slightly different, and it's kind of the same chord voicings but playing on a lower string set. So the basic part is this, lots of slight variations throughout the track, but really we've got kind of the A7 chord here, so kind of an A power chord, and then the open G to give you that A7 sound, and then for the C chord we've got the root and the 3rd, and then kind of an A to a G. It's kind of a 6 sound, a C6 sound, and then strumming the E minor. So that's the basic idea, but lots of variations on that you can hear. again, for the bridge section, same kind of chords but slightly different voicings. So C chord here, I'm hearing a B7 here, so, and then E minor, so playing this kind of mysterious E minor shape here, so open, 2, 4, and open, and then for the F chord, so it's playing a similar kind of lick as the main guitar part, but playing it lower down the neck, so just coming out of this F chord shape with a little hammer with the second finger, and then resolving to C. And that's pretty much it. I mean, if you're getting really nerdy and you're listening super closely, at the very end of the tune you can hear some slightly different chord voicings going on. So something like this. So we got A7, C, and then a higher E minor shape, and then this lovely chord, it's A13. So frets 5, 7, 5, 6, 7, 5, A13. So C add 9. And the tune just ends on that C chord, or the C add 9. Let me briefly talk about the second acoustic part, just for the sake of completeness. It's quite hard to hear exactly what's going on. I think this part only comes in during the chorus, and even then it's quite hard to hear it because it's blended in with the main acoustic part. But I think what it's doing is just playing a kind of bass line on the guitar. There's no actual bass on this recording, I don't think, but the acoustic is playing that kind of role. And the part is something like this. Just playing the root notes of the chords of the chorus or the B section, so A, C to E, and then you just got this little walk up back to A. And also, if you listen closely during the outro, there are these weird little noodles played on the acoustic guitar, and it's playing these kind of weird, kind of bluesy licks right in the outro. I'm not getting these exactly, but it's something like... that kind of thing, kind of weird, but it works. I've really no idea what Elliott Smith would have used on this recording. I think, read somewhere that the acoustic guitar he used on Roman Candle wasn't the Yamaha that he later became associated with, but was some really cheap acoustic. I can't remember the name, but I'm sure you can find details of that online. And then as far as the electric guitar he's using, I've actually no idea. So I'm just using gear of mine that I think is appropriate. So I've gone for my Jazzmaster, which is a 65 reissued Jazzmaster. And you're just going to need something with a whammy bar, I think, for some of those surfy wobbles. And then the amp I'm using is my little Fender Super Champ, and I've not used this amp for a little while, but I got it out earlier today. Still sounds really good, and it seems appropriate for a track like this where I wanted a bit more of a smaller, intimate sound. I'm using a couple of pedals as well. For reverb, I'm using my Surfy Bear reverb unit. It's obviously great for those surfy sounds. It's got real springs in there, so it's really authentic for that kind of sound. And then I'm using my J Rocket Archer overdrive, just a touch of overdrive. It's just fattening up the sound a little bit, really. And I use the same setup for both of the electric guitar parts on the backing track, but I did want to make each sound a little bit different. So for the main guitar part, I was using the bridge pickup, and I just had the amp and pedals set a little bit brighter and not quite so much reverb on the main guitar part. And then for the second guitar part, I used the neck pickup and added a bit more reverb, and then just made the tone a bit darker by rolling off the tone on the amp. Shall we have some sounds then? So this is just the guitar straight into the amp with no effects. Just running the Super Champ completely clean. It's just a nice balanced, neutral, clean sound. And then I'll turn on the Rocket overdrive pedal and really just warming up the sound a little bit, and it gives you a little bit more mid-range. I think there's not really much drive there unless you really dig in. So it's still essentially a clean sound. If I turn on the reverb, lovely real spring reverb sound, and that's my basic tone for the second guitar part. And then, as I said, for the main guitar part, the same setup. I'm just brightening things up a little bit and dialing back the reverb. So bridge pickup, I'm just going to pull back the mixer and the dwell on the reverb, maybe back off the tone, and also perhaps bump up the treble on the overdrive pedal. And then we got this kind of sound. And for the acoustic parts, I'm using my Martin D28. And again, I've not used this guitar for a little while. It's been stored away. And I haven't actually got room in my studio for all my guitars. What a terrible problem that is. And this is really my dream acoustic guitar. I got this because of the White Album, because of Neil Young. And I remember when I bought it and parting with quite a painful amount of cash. But I've still got it 15 years later and still loving the way it sounds. Well, that's about it for this video, and that wasn't too painful. So maybe I will look at some more Elliott Smith in the future, and I could look at one or two of his proper songs. So let me know if that's something that you would like to see. As usual, tab for this will be on my Patreon page along with my backing track. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.